All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sitting Volleyball Challenge, part of the 2020 Angel City Virtual Games presented by the Hartford. I am your host today. My name is Lora Webster, and I'm so excited to be here with you all today. I'd like to take this moment to thank the incredible sponsors who made this clinic possible. First, a huge thank you to the Hartford, the presenting sponsor of the 2020 Angel City Virtual Games. And another big thank you to Adaptive Apps and Move United for sponsoring this session. Okay, so if you joined us on Monday for our first clinic, you know we have some challenges coming up. I hope you all were able to participate throughout the week. Now we will go around to each coach. They will introduce themselves and remind you all of what their challenge was, and then we will do them together. And we're going to get started with John Kremer. So John, please introduce us to you and give us your story and your challenge.
Hello, everyone. My name is John Kremer. I'm one of the liberos on the U.S. men's national sitting volleyball team. I was in the Navy before I got hurt. I got hurt in 2010 after stepping on a landmine. I ended up losing both of my legs below the knee. I was very fortunate enough to get accepted and started playing adaptive sports through the Navy Wounded Warrior program. And I was very fortunate enough to have one of our coaches who was a national team coach at the time. And he recruited me to come out for the A2 or development team. And that's how I got started into the U.S. Volleyball pipeline. I've been playing volleyball since 2013-ish. I've been on the U.S. men's national team since 2015. And I was fortunate and lucky enough to be part of the 2016 Rio men's team. My challenge this week was to try to serve 10 balls at a target on a wall that we picked out, or that you picked out, and we'll see how many of those we got through and how many each person got. Laura, back to you.
All right, so if any of our athletes that are here want to put in their chat box if they did participate in that, what number they got to, we can take a look and see where you were at with that. Thanks, John. Bethany Zummo, come on down and share your stuff.
Hey. Hey, I'm Bethany Zummo. I am also a libero for the women's team. I've been playing sitting volleyball for 10 years now. I was born with fibular hemimelia, so I was born without my fibula, and so I had my foot amputated when I was 2, and I've known nothing different. So my challenge for you guys was an 8-point star, which is a drill that we do quite often, and we're going to do a modified version of that, where you just use whatever space you can, and you start in the middle, which then would replicate the middle of the court, and usually we are moving from the middle to the front, to the corner, to the side, corner, all the way around. But for this challenge, we were just doing whatever space that we could. So again, in your chat, maybe your time, if you want to throw it up there.
Are you interested in demoing it again for us?
Sure. I mean, if maybe the other coaches want to also demo that.
Absolutely. I was saying, like, I'll join you as we're doing it.
Oh, are you going to do it?
No, I'll do it with you, like, as we're doing it, because I want to get
so
it.
We've got Elaine participating, myself. Laura looks ready to go. And John can hop out of his fancy little video game chair.
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. So we're just gonna go.
Okay.
Ready, set. Oh, John's not ready.
Which way are we going first, forward or?
So it does not matter.
Oh, okay.
Everyone starts going forward first, but you can move to your left, to your right. You can move whichever direction. Just end up in the same place that you started.
All right.
Over the years, those of us that have done this many times know which sides are worse. So we start on that one, because by the end of it, when you're on a full court, you get pretty tuckered out.
Is the point to do it fast?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, also inviting everyone, Medical, Lori, Joe, Clayton, Anna, Elizabeth, anybody can join in on this. So You want to get on the floor.
And then starting stance is just anything.
Yeah, so your ready position, your body's going to be forward, and you're using your hands. Don't forget to use your
Okay.
arms.
That's what I don't do a lot of.
John, don't forget to use your arms to move. Okay, ready?
Okay, he's giving us a countdown.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go!
Ah, there's people trying to get in.
Done.
Not done.
That's okay. It also, normally when we race and do this, we have the same size court we're all working on. So it's a little different depending on your space that you have.
How many seconds was that? I didn't even time it. Anyone counting? It's super fast. All right, good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany. Do you want to share a little bit? You kind of skipped over your Paralympic experience. Do you want to share about that?
I'm so sorry. So I was saying that I have been playing sitting volleyball for 10 years. I was an alternate for the London Games, and Rio was my first games where we got a gold medal, which was like the most amazing experience I've ever had in my whole life. And we're hoping to replicate that in Tokyo next summer.
Thank you, because I really want Tokyo to happen. So I hope that that is the case. Yes, thank you for sharing. I am the next coach. So my name again is Lora Webster, and I have been on the women's national team since 2003. So right now I'm at about 17 and a half years of playing sitting volleyball. And I got into it when, well, first I had bone cancer when I was 11 years old, which is how I lost my leg. And I had a cool surgery called rotationplasty, which turned my foot around because I couldn't keep my knee joint. And it turned my ankle joint into my knee joint. So when I wear my prosthesis, it slips on. And when my toe points, it straightens my leg and bends. So it's really kind of funky, but it's always a good conversation starter. And it actually saved my athletic life when I played only able-bodied sports. I was introduced to adaptive sports in 2002. And when I first heard about it, I didn't want any part of it because I was nervous about being classified as a disabled athlete, because back then it was such a stigma associated with it. And I was playing able-bodied sports at the time. And so I was okay there. And I didn't want to switch, but I'm really glad that I did, because I had never been around other people who had stories similar to myself. And we had an instant bond with the people that I met in that first camp. And over the last 17 years, we've had quite a few different people come in and out of our team. And every time somebody else comes in, it's just another person that you've connected with. And traveling the world and meeting people who are new to it and introducing them to it has been an amazing thing. And since 2003, I have been to 4 Paralympic Games. In Athens, we won bronze. And in Beijing and London, we won silver at each. And in Rio with Bethany, we finally defeated the Chinese and took home our gold. And yep. And now we have one more year to prepare for Tokyo.
That was such an awesome match. Just throwing that in there.
Thank you. We smoked them, and it was so fun. It was like so good that it was almost anticlimactic because it was so quick. Mm-hmm. Right, B? It was kind of it was a very fast game, and it was great to be on top finally. And so my challenge to all of you was to try to keep a ball up as much as you could. So if anybody, again, coaches, medical supporters, want to partake, it was a simple challenge where you can do anywhere, even if you're sitting on your couch or on your bed, or if you're in a wheelchair, or if you can be on the ground. And we were to just try to keep it up for as long as you could. And this was something that I trained with in middle school. And it just teaches you to react as quickly as you can. And you can just keep going, which is fun. as soon as you make a mistake, it's an easy thing that can work on ball control that you can do anywhere. And if any of you were able to do the challenge, please post how high you got in the comments. And that's it. And let me switch over to my script so I know what I am saying next. We are now, if anybody has any questions, please put them in the comment box. We have plenty of time to answer questions, whether if anybody has any for any of the coaches about any of our experiences or what got us here or anything like that.
If anyone's comfortable turning off their mute and asking a question, go ahead. We would love to hear you. I have about 57 of them, so I'll not go first.
Well, it looks like we had a question from Cam in LA to start us off. And it is to every coach. And what is the favorite place you've ever traveled for sitting volleyball? John, what have you got?
Mine's kind of hard because I've really enjoyed every place that we've played so far. But I would have to say my favorite venue of all time playing was in Italy. We got to play in this really, really small town up in the mountains in Italy. But they basically made their court in their center, their city center. So we were playing outside in this town center. Oh, it was just absolutely breathtaking. Like the architecture, the views and everything like that. It was just so awesome.
I saw those pictures before Worlds and I was so incredibly jealous because where you guys were and the places that you went was phenomenal. Very, very jealous. Bethany, what about you?
That is also very hard. So my first memory that's popping in my head is Elbląg, Poland. We went to Worlds in 2014, and I didn't know I ever wanted to go to Poland, but I have the best memories from that trip and from playing, and there were so many people who came to watch, and I think we don't often talk about the audience and the energy that they bring. And so going there and having this having people totally be cheering and totally be into our sport as into it as we are is super fun. So yeah.
I figured you would say playing on the beach in Rio would have been one of your favorites.
Okay, I also didn't want to say that because, Brazil, y'all, Brazil has a special place in my heart, but I didn't want to say it because I didn't want you guys to make fun of me. So Brazil, I am in love with Brazil. It was my first international trip. It was the first time we ever flew. First class on a flight was to Brazil. And then we went to Rio, and it just going to Rio and having that come full circle from being my first international trip to then being there. I mean, and they have exponentially more audience, people, their energy that they have, it's incredible. I feed off of that, and just Brazil's so fun, guys. If you haven't been, I would go. I'm going in 4 days. Surprise, Laura.
Yay! Good for you. To answer Cam's question, I think one of my favorites was probably the gold medal match in Beijing. We were playing China in a stadium packed full with probably 8,000 fans, where 7 of them were cheering for us. And it was such a cool experience because everybody was so loud, and it's not often in adaptive sports that we walk into a full stadium because we're still developing our support around the world. But that crowd in Beijing was spectacular. And even though we lost, it was such a cool environment to feed off of and to be involved in. And Rio, it felt as though we had more people rooting against us than even in English, rooting against us in English.
It was bad.
Yes, and so it's amazing. Although it was a smaller crowd, it felt, they were much louder. But Beijing was a really cool experience.
Laura, I do remember one of my favorite memories from Rio was Nikki coming off the court and being like, I've never been booed before. And she was the first server of the game. And she we've never practiced how do you react when you're being booed? So it was so crazy because it was so loud and so intense, and it's like we played through it, and it was really fun. But it was yeah.
It's funny that before, when Mike Hewlett was our coach before Athens in 2004, we had audio going through the speakers at the OPTC, and it was all of fans cheering, and we would sit right next to each other on the service line and scream in each other's faces to try to prepare you for how you compete under the pressure of no support and just being, yelled at. And that was one of our training things. It was pretty funny. It felt very weird to do, but it was very funny. Enough reminiscing. Sorry, everybody.
Really fascinating to learn. That's great to hear that stuff. I had a question for all of you guys about like mental health, prepping, and your nutrition that you work on, as well as any kind of rehabilitation that you guys yourself have experienced, or can you talk a little bit about like your personal path with that and kind of open up to the three of you?
Okay. John, Bethany, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So with me, I learned at a very young age in the military, mental preparation is a big part of what you do. So my job in the military, I was explosive ordnance disposal, which is kind of like the bomb squad for the Navy. So I get to work with all the cool Navy SEAL guys, Green Berets, all the special forces guys. So you learn very quickly how to react and learn from mistakes. So all your training is based off of mistakes. So you train 1,000 times to take care of one specific IED or one landmine or anything like that. You might die 950 times, but that 50 times you get it right, you're learning from those mistakes every single time. So mental preparation going into sports, I took it the same way. I'm going to fail in practice and fail and fail and fail, but I'm not going to take those failures as failures. I'm going to take them as successes and getting better throughout my training and stuff. So when I actually go into a match, I know I can do a lot better than what I did in practice. I know I can fail and I'm still going to be a lot better than what I was in practice. So I took that and learned from that being in the military. Now the nutrition standpoint and stuff like that, recently I just hired a nutritionist and stuff. It's becoming more, I guess, prominent for me to get a nutritionist the higher I get in age, just to, maintain weight and work on my body better than I have in the past, because in the military, I was always constantly working out and doing all this other stuff, physical activity. But now I'm missing my legs. I don't do all the same activities and stuff that I did before. Not that I don't do a lot to work out and stuff like that, but my intensity and my workouts are a lot different. So I've had to learn to scale back on my macros and stuff like that, and learn different ways of preparing my body, but not just my body, but mentally as well.
Bethany, do you want to go ahead and say how you've been doing that?
Thanks, John, for telling us that.
Yeah, man. So what's resonating for me is a little bit different than what John got from that question. I was like born with my disability. So I don't feel like I feel like I may have had a different like mental like adversity to fight through, like growing up and whatnot, which led me to the way that I deal with adversity now. But I recently had, and I'm really sorry that there's a person doing the lawnmower or something. So a year and a half ago, I had a corrective surgery on my nubby. And that was the first time I couldn't do anything. And so my mental health, my nutrition, my physical activity, everything really struggled from that. And I didn't necessarily know what to do because I didn't have that battle earlier on. Like Lora and Kremer, like both had to overcome this thing, this huge challenge for them. physically. And I didn't necessarily have that because I grew up like, I didn't know anything different. So I didn't necessarily see it as a challenge that I had to overcome. So that I started to have that struggle about 1.5 years ago when I had that surgery. So it's what's helped me is really leaning on the people like Lora and Kremer who have had these like challenges and have overcome them. And for me, so like a lot of my teammates have been really helpful when it comes to mental health because I didn't know, like when you can't do anything, like when you go from being able to do stuff like normal to then like now I can't do anything. Now I don't even have a leg to do anything, and my everything's still healing and stuff. That like everybody goes through these challenges, like at least Lora and Kremer have, and I didn't even feel like I had ever gone through that. And I've had a prosthetic my entire life. So I actually feel like I'm still going through that mental health like challenge and trying to really find how to really overcome that because I'm still in it. So it's a little different. It's interesting to listen to Kremer talk about it.
Interesting to listen to you too. Like gives a different perspective, you know?
Yeah.
Cool to hear.
Yeah. Lora?
We have, as a team, we have been focusing more on mental health and nutrition, probably since probably the year before Rio. It's really became more of a prominent role in our team dynamic. At home is kind of a different story. And then once COVID hit, it was a totally different story. I have 3 young kids, and John, I know you've got young kids too. And so that adds a whole different thing, especially when you're not preparing to travel in your home for the duration. It's different not traveling, and it's also different not having that structure. So I went from getting my kids up and ready for school, and we kind of got settled into when we ate and what we ate, because it was when I came back from errands and I had this 20-minute thing before I had to leave to go do something else, to now being home and not so much eating more, but being less mindful about what I'm eating. And so these couple of months have been a little bit different in that regard. And mental health, I think the shutdown in the last few months has been a really big blessing in a lot of ways, because people have become more considerate of one another. And I feel like people as a whole are checking in a lot more. And I know that our team in particular has made that a priority. We had cooking and quarantine challenges that our nutritionist set up to make sure that we were all connecting every week. And we had, I think, weekly or bi-weekly meetings just to check in and see how everybody was and what's going on and how they're doing. And so it's really made people realize that what this separation and isolation can do sometimes for people when they're at home. And so we have made it even more so of an effort to keep in touch with one another. And that's been a really cool thing to see what's happened during this whole thing. And so the mental health thing, I think worldwide, has been a more prominent and bigger consideration for each other, which has been a cool aspect of this, and something that will be useful in this next year, because there's going to be so many unknowns that we're really going to need to keep focusing on how to stay positive and how to deal with these emotions, because we all have those feelings of, I mean, John, you guys were literally about to start competing for your spot in Tokyo when the German team was turned away from coming into the US and had to get back on a plane. And so it was such a weird mental thing. And then when the games got shut down so quickly, it was like, what am I working towards? And it was like this weird, you're floating in the space of unknown, but then there's so many bigger unknowns. And it's a hard thing to try to wrap your mind around and to pinpoint how you're feeling. So the mental health aspect right now, I think, is one of the biggest priorities. Thank you for that question, Elaine.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for sharing your guys' input. The goal here is to try and create that kind of team environment with Angel City and the sit-in volleyball program that I'm trying to get started, you know, so
sure,
that's wonderful to hear that you guys have that connection, because that's only going to make you stronger, you know, when you're competing. So
definitely
create that kind of team effect.
I would say thank you to your whole program and the entire event for making sure that this happened this year, because it is an important thing for athletes across the world to have that point of reference to check in and say, hey, I'm still a part of something. I'm not just at home alone going through this. And having that connection to other athletes wherever they are in the world is so important. So thank you guys for making sure that this event happened.
I don't know how you make a heart, but I'm making a heart.
Okay, well, I'll take your word for it.
Bethany's doing it for me. Laura had some really good questions in the chat if you wanted to. I think there was a great one about Paralympic
Yes.
year and without spectators.
Lori had said, if the Tokyo Paralympics are held without spectators, what may be different in your training mentally? No getting booed for Nikki. That would be really weird. Thankfully, we hold exhibition matches, that's the word, exhibition matches often, whether in the US or in other countries. And unfortunately, we don't always have a lot of fans, so we're kind of used to playing in some empty stadiums and gyms. So I think we've been prepared for that. And with our training being closed for the most part as well, building our own energy and our own intensity is something that our head coach talks a lot about, and will get on us if our practice session doesn't feel high intensity enough or like our energy is really in it. So our energy control and output is something that we have trained on for the last 12 years that he's been our coach, 11 years. And so that, I think, will be a huge, unbeknownst to all of us, those last few years with him focusing on that, building your own energy will be something that we'll have to use if that's the case. And it'll be really weird, though, still to be in a stadium that size with nobody there. I hope that's not the case. Go ahead, B.
Can you repeat the question?
What would it be like if Tokyo was held without spectators, and how would that differ in our training and preparing for that? You don't have to answer if you don't know.
I don't know that I have an answer. What I'm thinking about is like when just before this, when we had a competition in Peru, and we did a couple practices in the stadium with no audience, and imagining that would be like how the games would be. Like, I don't know that it would like phase a whole lot of us, just because we already, like, that's kind of already part of our process is experiencing like what it's like to play on the game court, you know, without the distractions that like it, that would be a very unique experience. So I'm not really against that, though. Like audience, like I've said earlier, that like they bring such a crazy energy that like we will then have to create that for ourselves. But you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see how what is it, MLB is doing it, and NBA, how they're having like fake people. Like,
you know, I'd be in there doing
that.
that.
See some fat heads of like my family members, because I'll tell you, in Rio, my mother after the first game said, "Couldn't you see me in the stands?" And I was like, "No," because I wasn't like looking. And she said, "Okay, good." And so then the following game, I walked out on the stadium and I saw 7 of my big fat head in the stands, and it was very distracting. So I would prefer not to see myself in the stands this time, but I would love to see other people, like fake people, if I think that would be really fun. So
yeah, Lori said that they're already implementing that. It would be,
let's do it.
I think the hardest thing would be whether you win or lose or wherever you come out, and not having your family to be there to physically see them or hug them afterwards would be really hard to share in either the victory or the tears. That would be the hard. It'd be emotionally difficult, especially for like Nicole, who it's her last games. And that could be a really hard way to go out when it feels so anticlimactic without your family there.
Yeah.
John, do you have any input? Oh, sorry, Beth.
I was just going to say that the good thing is that at least I feel this way, that our team is such a unit, and that like we have always been there when we've had trips that we couldn't have family and stuff, that we are there for each other. Memory that not many people know about, when we lost at Worlds, we had dinner together and I was like, "I'm tired, I'm going upstairs to pack." And I just found myself like crying on the floor, and my roommate came in and was like, "What are you doing?" And she was there for me. And so like, that's not often a memory that I share, but it's we're here for each other. And Laura, I will be there for you. You can cry in my arms if you need to.
Oh, thank you. I'd rather hug my husband though, but I'll take it.
Oh my God.
Piggybacking off of the Paralympic questions, there's a question from Joe asking, what does your training look like now, and how often do you train? What are you doing, et cetera, et cetera. So can you maybe talk about what you're doing during a pandemic as a Paralympic athlete, and what direction is your program going in, and what can we see?
I'm going to turn this to John because I feel like this question is trying to get some insider knowledge into what you're actually doing at home right now. So go ahead.
Well, Joe knows my workout schedule and stuff because I'm always sending him my videos and stuff like that. So, but my training schedule hasn't really changed all that much. The only difference in my training schedule is I probably don't practice volleyball as nearly as much as I did before the pandemic. So as of like right now, I train 5 to 6 days a week, weight and cardio. And then I try to do volleyball 2 to 3 times a week. But that all depends on meetings, Zoom meetings and stuff like that I have. But most of the time I get at least 3 times a week where I'm actually touching a volleyball and playing some type of volleyball at my house. And then, I mean, I stick to a pretty strict training regimen. And same thing, it goes with like my stretching and mental health aspect of it. Our head coach is very big on like the mental health and mental preparation going into matches, not just matches, but practice as well. So my training hasn't really changed a whole lot just because I have my own gym and stuff at my house. But Georgia opened up back in the end of May, beginning of June. So I was able to actually go out to my actual gym and start working out again. So back to you, Laura.
Thanks for sharing that.
I feel like I should have a Bob Barker mic. Let's see, should we go to another question, or B, do you want to talk about what you've been doing?
Yeah, see, yeah.
Yeah, so I have created this little, we call it my home office. And it's used to be the dog area when we had like company over that they didn't want to like have the dogs running around because we have 4 of them. So it's this really nice big space that has like a fenced in little, like, it's like a mini yard. And I actually like, I'm so thankful that I have like my family support in this, not only for like my grandma saying like, yeah, you can use the space for this, like take it over, but then also like my dad had these like almost sport court, like outdoor sport court that he just happened to have in his garage, and then has these foam mats he happens to have in his garage because he's a hoarder. So that they were just, there's no question, it's like, here, take this, here, use this, here, do you need this, do you need that, whatever. So I'm really thankful that I have such a great support system here, because if I was by myself, who knows what I would be doing or be able to be doing. And yeah, so I've been able to come out here every day. I have my bike so I can get some cardio, and I just got this little, like, it's like a little stand to make it a stationary bike. So I do that, and then I just come out here and I'm just playing. Like, I'm just enjoying my time playing volleyball with whatever I can get. If my sisters can come out with me, if not,
Being
like,
one with the ball.
one with the ball. Yes. Yeah, so I'm just enjoying whatever touches I can get, honestly, until we can get back together.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of just making it up as they go along. But Clayton had said, how many more games do the 3 of us have left in the tank? My husband is right here, so I would love to go through to LA, because going out on US soil I think would be amazing, because my whole family could be there. And yes, I was really hoping LA would not be so gracious and give up the 24 bid to Paris so easily. I wanted them to fight for that, because that could have been an easier thing to have, what's the word I'm looking for, to convince him of. And it now being in 28 it's going to be tough. But my kids will be older, so they'll need less at home. That's how it works, right? And my husband would like for Tokyo to be my last. He's right here, by the way.
Yes.
But now that Tokyo is pushed back to 2021, my argument is that it's only 3 years until Paris, and then after that, you might as well stay in for the big final haul. So I would keep playing, and John Kessel, who is a big USA volleyball legend, has told me that I will continue to play until I'm 80 years old. And that is what he has me. I think he sent me a contract to sign in that I will be here forever. Bethany, John, either of you?
Well, I am going to stick around as long as my coach allows me to stick around. I like you, I'm hoping to make the 2028 games for LA. I mean, I'm still fairly young, even though I'm kind of old, but I'm still one of the younger guys on our team. So I'm shooting for 2028 as going to be my last quad, but we'll see what happens from there. Bethany?
I'm just trying to keep my composure because it's funny.
Bethany calls me old all the time, and I am 33.
She's not much older than me, but I think I've been on the team for 10 years. I'm 27, but I've been on the team since I was 17. And so I've known Lora for that long. And so she's kind of always been like my mom, but she doesn't like that, but I like that. So, I'll just keep playing until I can't play anymore. That's what my brain's thinking. I'm definitely, yeah, at least LA. What's after LA? We don't know that yet. So we got Paris, LA. Let's do it. Yeah, I'm here.
Lora, do you want to read off Anna's question?
Oh, sure. I was just reading.
Part of that one is good.
Yeah, sorry. I was just reading what Elizabeth said, and I didn't get all the way through it because I came back in. But I am so proud of you for even doing what you could. That's what this whole thing is about, and just trying to make it work for you however you can. That's what these things are, to try and see what you can do. And all of us have to adapt to different things, whether it's a sport or how we get out of bed in the morning. And so making those changes, even though you might not look like how you see the other people or able-bodied people doing it, you make it work for yourself and you'll get there. And so I'm so proud of you. I am getting goosebumps finishing reading this. But yes, so thank you, Elizabeth, for trying and for being here and for participating. It means so much to us. So thank you. And then Anna's question is either one of our favorite memories or what is a quote that you live by? Bethany, you're very quotey, so I'm going to go to you first. Maybe that's Cleo, but you're going.
Hi. Okay. So I do actually have some quotes. So whatever. The first one that I'm thinking of is one that our coach told us in Rio and leading up to Rio was be consistently good. And for me, like, I know that he may not have meant it so philosophically, but for me, I take it as like, I don't need to be great. I don't need to be this superstar. And often I am a perfectionist and I put a lot of pressure on myself being the best that I can be. And when he would say, just be consistently good, that like it simplified it for me, that like I can have faith that I'm going to pass the ball to the best of my ability always. And then I have faith that my teammates will pick it up no matter what. So like, it doesn't have to be great. It can just get it good. It's good. It's keep the ball up. And so that really is something that I actually asked Bill, like the camp right before, we haven't seen each other in a long time. I said to Bill, dude, can you just tell me to be consistently good? Because he stopped saying it after Rio. I don't know, just because he probably wasn't thinking about it because it's not that big of a deal to him. But I was like, can you just tell me that? Because I think I need that right now. And so he started saying it again to me. So that's a really helpful thing, but I don't know. That's all I got.
That's great to learn. Thanks for sharing that. I want to know what John thinks.
Yeah.
So it's what our favorite memory or quote is. Is that what it is, right? So my favorite memory for being a Paralympian and going to Paralympics, and it was kind of special to me because our going to Rio was kind of special in the fact that I got to actually meet a really good friend of mine, and he was also one of the Paralympians there. So I just happened to be walking into the food center, or I forget what, the cafeteria in Rio, and I happened to see this man with this huge beard and red hair, and I was like, man, I know that guy. I'm gonna go over there and talk to him. So I went over there and started talking to him, and he happens to be a really good friend of mine. Probably a lot of you guys know him, Brad Snyder. He's a Paralympic swimmer, and I actually met Brad the day he got, or a couple days after he got hurt in the hospital in Bethesda. I was there visiting one of my friends who had just lost a leg over in Afghanistan, and I was visiting him, seeing, helping him through his recovery and stuff like that. And I was there with Taylor Morris, who was another EOD tech that had just lost all 4 limbs. And that day, Brad came into the hospital, and I went over and talked to him. And I was just talking to him about his recovery and stuff like that, just kind of talking with him. And that was the day he ended up finding out he was going to be blind for the rest of his life. And then fast forward a couple years, I ran into him again at the Wounded Warrior Games. He was part of Team Navy with me. And it was kind of funny because you have a guy missing both legs, walking him across the pool deck as a blind person to get into the water to play or to swim. So it was actually kind of weird. And that day he swam, I think it was the 7th fastest time in the world ever for a blind person. And he had only been swimming for a couple weeks leading up to that. And then the swim coach happened to be there. The U.S. Paralympic swim coach happened to be there. I was like, hey, why don't you come out for the Paralympic team? And Brad was like, okay, I'll do it. Fast forward another year, and he was on the 1 year to the day he won his first gold medal in London for swimming. And then fast forward another 4 years, I ran into him at opening ceremonies in the cafeteria. And then I actually got to walk out with him into the opening ceremonies. I walked right next to him for that. So that was actually a really cool memory and a really cool experience for me.
Well,
I knew you would have a good answer.
that was incredible. That got me very emotional. That's really, really awesome. Yeah, well, I got nothing to that. So, wow.
What about a quote you live by or something, or anything that pumps?
The only one that pops up is actually something I said in practice that our coach actually liked, which still it's stuck in my head. And it was, I said, we were talking about something, and I said, we've got to work until the hard things are easy. And that's kind of been something that pops into my head often, not just in volleyball, but in everything. And so that's something that has stuck with me since then.
Yeah, that's definitely applicable to everything in life, not just volleyball. That's wonderful. Looks like
I'm loving all the comments and talking about all the connections that everybody has to Bethesda. It's such a small world, and it's very cool to see.
Another way we're all connected.
Yes. Do we want to go to the raffle now?
Yeah.
Or yes?
Let me do that.
If we're ready. Oh, one more question.
Oh, okay.
From Anna. What is your favorite pre-competition meal? She's a big foodie. Sometimes we're in places where we don't have the best of selection. I travel everywhere with popcorn. That is my favorite. So I can live off of popcorn, which I'm not sure. I think it's got fiber. So I will eat that. That will be my go-to when we are in places where I am a little bit more picky with the food. Bethany?
Anything that's Laura's eating, because she's my mom. So I just pick off of her food.
And John, we'll go straight into that.
Well, like Laura said, some of the places we compete at, you don't really have like what you can get for like a favorite meal or anything like that. So I kind of just eat whatever I can eat in stomach in some places. Because sometimes a lot of the food is like dry or something like that. So it's like mainly just trying to get something that's edible and something for nutrition. But I try not to eat like a lot right before playing. Mainly I kind of stick to something small, not a lot of carbs in it, nothing that's going to weigh in my stomach for a long period of time. So, and then afterwards I tend to eat a lot of food after, but right before a match or anything like that, I tend not to eat too much.
And that makes us sound very picky. Our hosts always do a really great job of taking care of us.
They do.
They do.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I found a real answer. Okay, not that my other answer wasn't real because I totally do that. But I know for a fact that Laura and I like drink coffee like crazy people. So coffee. That's gonna be my answer.
Coffee is definitely a pregame bus drink. No,
Okay,
probably too close.
Making notes here of popcorn and coffee, guys.
Coffee,
Yes.
coffee and tea. Coffee and tea.
We have a question from Elizabeth. She'd like to use her audio to ask the question, so just want to encourage her to do so now if she's ready.
Thank you. Hi. So I'm also visually impaired or totally blind, depending on the light situation, and because light makes my brain close my eyes. But I love I used to play, and I had brain injury, so I don't remember a lot of it. This is my ball. And I was wondering, I love everything you're saying, but can I ask you a little bit of advice technically for getting back to the sport person? Could you give me some advice or insight on how to get back to it? So, because I can't see you, so maybe I didn't want to interrupt during the clinic and stuff that you're doing, but could you describe the position of your hand that's best for I mean, I have memories, some muscle memory, but I don't remember if it's right or not. So like I was able to do the serve, luckily, really well. I just used the eye thing for the door, that's tactile for me to touch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When you're looking through the door, your front door, do you guys know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah. And so that's how I know when I hit it. I was hitting it because my hands are really good for stuff like that. But could you just describe hand position a little bit for hitting the ball and make sure I'm doing it right?
You mean
John? Do you want to go ahead?
Say it because I can't actually see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, are you talking about like serving or actually like swinging on a ball?
Both, depending on your time that you have. But I can catch on pretty quick if you.
Okay, for serving, for me, because our court is so small, or small compared to like a standing court.
Yeah.
So when I make contact with the ball, I want to try to get my hand in the center of the ball. So the palm of my hand in the center of the ball. So I'm not off to one side or the other. When I make contact, I want it to be directly in the center of the ball. My wrist and because I do a float serve, I don't do a topspin serve. My wrist is going to be solid. And what I want to do when I actually make contact with the ball is when I make contact with the ball, I'm having a solid wrist and a solid hand. So when I hit the ball, I'm actually going to hit through the back of the ball. But I want to visualize, like for you, your eye thing on your door is try to high five that.
Oh.
I was just going to say, like you're high-fiving a wall.
Yeah.
The motion that you would be making.
So this is all stiff.
Yes.
Yes.
This is all like one
on my
unit.
serve.
Great.
On my serve, yes.
For serve, it's a 1 unit type thing.
Yes. So when I go to actually do a top spin serve or a down ball or actually hitting on the ball, it's a little bit opposite. So like I said during the, I don't know if you can hear me, sorry. I'm a little bit far away from
No,
my
I
mic.
hear you perfectly.
So when I go to actually swing on a ball, like I'll take that towel or t-shirt and I want to try to whip it forward. So my wrist is actually going to be a lot looser when I'm actually hitting a top spin or a down ball or actually making an attack. So basically from my elbow to my wrist, it's going to be loose. So when I make contact with the ball, the top of my hand or my palm is actually going to be kind of on the top of the ball, not directly on top, but maybe like at 1, 2 o'clock, if you want to look at it as a clock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good.
So like between like maybe 1 and 2 o'clock, I'm going to make contact with it. So I'm going to use that whipping motion of that towel and or t-shirt as I'm coming through. So as I'm coming through, I'm making contact with the ball and I'm whipping my hand over top of the ball.
And is it important also to follow through with your hand after you hit it, or is that part of the sport too?
Yes, so I'm still making contact and I'm following through all the way down. Same thing with, I mean, on my serve, I don't follow through a lot because I'll just make contact and kind of push through the back of the ball.
Because it's
but
more
I'm
of
not
a push.
bringing my arm down. Yeah. So top spin and attacking is a little bit different than a float serve in following through, I guess.
Oh, so cool.
Does that make sense for you? Does that help out?
Yeah, very much. And your imagery is really, really easy to follow. Great imagery.
Great
Okay.
question, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
It's nice to be able to help you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And way to hit your target just from tactiling, feeling where that was.
Right.
And your ability to hit that is amazing. And I saw that you put a beeper inside your homemade ball, which is such an awesome thing. You totally have the adaptation part of adaptive sports down. So way to go.
I had a frisbee with a beeper in it, so I just did some surgery.
That's fabulous. That's awesome.
Transplant surgery.
Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you guys so much. This was awesome.